thank you, Kutluhan, for having me here at your farm, where you do natural farming, also called do-nothing farming. It's according to principles that you learned from Fukuoka, a Japanese farmer, philosopher, who was active in the 70s, I think. Could you first explain something about those principles?
Well, it is coming from Fukuoka, and they are actually not even principles, like simply not plowing the soil, not using any kind of pesticides, herbicides, or fertilizers, no any chemical substances, and no weeding. And if you are talking about fruit trees, no pruning. So actually it is how the nature works, not even, they are not even principles to follow. It is simply what is already happening in the forest.
That's why it's called natural. Yes. But this is, it seems to me that doing the agriculture is only almost like a metaphor of an approach to life, a philosophy, a way of living, of sharing, of respecting, of starting from gratitude. That's how when I'm here, that's how I feel you and feel this place. Could you explain a bit more about that?
The part about growing food, the part that is related to agriculture, I believe it is the top of the iceberg. It is just, let's say, offering to the fundamentals to survive, to have the healthy food. But there is way more behind it, which is the philosophy of natural farming and living together in a beautiful harmony with the nature and with all the beings that are on this planet, including the human beings as well. So, like, the real goal of natural farming is not to grow food, as Fukuoka says, but it is the perfection of the human beings.
Oh wow, the perfection of the human beings. Could you explain more?
I believe that when we born, we are already in that state of perfection of the human beings. But then we start learning, we get education, we get conditioned in our mind, and we create barriers between us and the life itself. We don't see anymore a tree like a tree. We see what we have learned what tree is. So we start to receive the life depending on our education, and not only ours, but education of the all human beings that are accumulated over the years. And this separates us from the nature. It is like putting a glass and looking at the life through that glass.
Yeah, so it's returning, it's undoing what we learned, or unlearning, to find that direct experience of nature around us and nature inside us. How did it come to you? Because you didn't plan to become a farmer, I think.
I didn't have any farming background. 15 years ago, if you would have showed me a pepper or eggplant plant, I wouldn't even be able to recognize it. I was born and raised in a city. I studied in Istanbul, and but at some moment I was feeling a deep call towards going back to nature, which was not even clear for me. What did it mean, this?
Yes, you were studying mathematics?
Yes, I studied mathematics.
And then that call came, or what happened then that you felt that urge?
I was feeling within me that at some point I would end up in a mountain, living probably out of the, let's say,
Society.
yes, let's say out of the society that we have built. But then I realized that I had to grow my food, and I had no idea how to do it. And I started to read. I met with permaculture, I met with biodynamic farming and the natural farming. And as everyone, after I read the books of Fukuoka, it deeply touched my heart and opened so many doors in me. And I decided to see the living examples of it, because it seemed to me like a beautiful utopia. But I wanted to see with my own eyes and touch the soil. And I started to travel to meet with the students of Fukuoka. I spent around 2 years in South America, being at the farm of those students of Fukuoka, living with them together. And after South America, I spent around 4 to 5 years in Greece, living with another students of Fukuoka. And Panos Manikis, he's called. And he has passed half of his farm to me. And there I became, let's say, at least what I see for my life, that was the point I became a farmer. And today still I am practicing natural farming as a farmer in Italy, where I live now, in the Shizen farm.
Yes, that's where we are here, and it's not only a farm, and maybe not your farm, because you share, you welcome people here. When I'm here, I feel very, very relaxed. Yeah, there is like a meditative state here, and also when I see you walking through the garden or just sitting with people, it feels like you're also very meditative. So do you see that your mind or even your being changed during those years? How is it for you? How is it different from when you were a student? Your relationship to life and to people, how did it change?
I believe that there were moments of changes, but it is not all of a sudden. It is the process, and end of this process there were the changes. And for me now, being in the farm, even just walking half an hour around the farm, just taking a walk, looking at the flowers, seeing the butterflies, listening the birds. And after some time, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, I see myself that my mind is empty, but my body is taking the actions, what needs to be done. And I never come to the farm with the idea of, okay, I have to do this now. It can happen, depends on the moment, depends on the period. But most of the time, I come here, take a walk, and after 20 minutes, half an hour, I find myself doing things. My body is in action, but my mind is totally empty. And it can pass even the whole day like this.
Yes.
And end of the day, my body is tired, but my soul is satisfied.
Yes. So yes, it feels like in spirituality, that your mind and your person is less involved, that things come through you, happen through your body in a very natural way. Yes, beautiful. The other day, because it reminds me of, we were talking the other day about Rumi, and you said you were very inspired by him, and even though he lived in Turkey, you didn't know him when you were still in Turkey, but later you found out about him, and you said he's very important to you. Could you say how this happened and how it is now for you?
When in the years that I was living in Turkey, I never really had connection with the Rumi or the Sufism, the whole philosophy of the Sufism. It was there, but it was not there for me. It was in my culture, but I never really look at it, let's call it like this. And then it was the moments, I think I was in South America, traveling. Then I started to, I was spending some time in the Amazon forest in Peru. And I was spending some time with a shaman, and he was talking, and most of the things that he was telling me, I was recognizing in Sufism, and I was a bit confused, and I started to read, said, I want to understand what is going on. And then there I started to appreciate and see the, let's say, the big gift that Rumi left to us. And today, like after maybe 10 years, I can see clearly that it shaped my life in a beautiful way. Rumi and the philosophy of Rumi and Sufism.
Yes, I think the mysticism of Rumi is about, he talks about burning also, and that we do not exist anymore as a person and become one with God. That is also how you feel it, even in your daily work, when you say that I don't decide to do anything, but at some point it happens. Do you also use the word God then, or is it just nature for you?
I believe that it is the same light. Maybe Rumi was using the word God, and Fukuoka was using the word nature. Someone else can use another word. It doesn't really matter, but it is that point where everything is one. And however you want to call it, you can call it. That is really, I believe, not really important. And me personally, I see that I use sometimes nature. I use also God sometimes. And sometimes the word death. I am also using this word. But I believe when I look back, I am referring to the same light, I think.
Yes, and you were also saying light.
Yes.
I think that's also a beautiful word to use for this. It seems to me that you are a farmer, but you are also doing a lot of work in sharing about these ideas, way of life, way of doing agriculture. You're traveling a lot, doing a lot of workshops in all of Europe, or many countries in Europe. How did this come about that you also want to share?
For me, this sharing process started in the moment of to see and experience with my own hands and own eyes that how easy to farm actually and grow food. And I started to question, how come that people make all these difficulties in order to grow food, and that brings as a natural consequence of the destruction of the nature. My mind just couldn't understand it, the whole process. How it is possible that we choose a way that we have to invest so much energy, time and work that leads to a natural destruction in order to grow chemical food. But on the other hand, actually the growing food is simply just throwing the seeds and cutting the grasses at the right moment. It is that simple. And I said, I would like to share this with people. And this is how the workshops started. And I had a deep call in my heart for Africa. Now I have been there last year, and this year now going back.
Yes, there was also a project in Africa.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are you doing there?
And growing food. This is the as simple as.
But within a community somewhere, you're teaching people how to do things, or what is happening there?
Last year it started with the idea of visiting local communities in the different areas of Kenya and grow food with them. And when we come back, I called Linda, a dear friend in Belgium, and I shared with her some experiences that I lived in Kenya, and also the wish that I have in my heart. And she said, okay, why not that we make a crowdfunding and we can establish even more natural farms in Africa. And this was the, let's say, point where things get a bit faster.
Alright.
Now I am going back, I think end of November, beginning of December, to Africa with the intention of setting maybe small centers where they practice natural farming and everyone can come, learn freely, and then go back to apply in their home.
Here you have a farm and you also sell some vegetables in shops locally. But is it mostly the idea that people do this privately, or also in bigger farms? When you spread the work, it's mostly private people, or is this also doable as a farm where people want to earn money? Could you say something about that?
Of course, it is also possible to, like, I have seen living examples, and now also I am on the way to living only by selling the vegetables and the fruits that are grown in the farm. But the concept is different than how we are used to see the agriculture in the old times, let's call it like this. In natural farming, you cannot work 10 hectares of land. This is not possible for a single person. Even 5 hectares, this is beyond than capacity of a single person can take care. But taking, let's say, over an hectare of land and planting in each square meter of this hectare of land, and that is the way of natural farming, and not selling to the merchants that as we are used to do in the old times, but selling directly to the people, all the small shops. So we develop also relationship with them, and in this way, changing the way how we are moving, it is possible to survive economically and also grow.
Yeah, and restore nature. Yes. So when I see here, it's vegetables, flowers, trees together, and they are helping each other. And you cover the soil. So, and by covering the soil, you don't need to water the soil. And what else? How are trees helping the vegetables and flowers helping the vegetables? Could you explain that?
Let's start from covering the soil. In the first moment, the most important action to take is to bring a life to the soil. And life means plants, trees, roots, microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, everything that is alive. And the way to start to it is to sow seeds and cover the soil. So this is the state that is happening, and it will continue in this way. And they will all grow together like in the forest. There is no separation in the forest that this is the area for only the perennials, this is for annuals, this is for trees, but they all grow together. Fortunately, today is a cloudy and fresh day, but last days Have you ever tried to sit down all day under a sun? And
No, that's not possible.
the same for the vegetables. If they stay under the trees, some shade, they even grow better than being totally under the sun.
Yes, it's very much living together with nature. Yeah. Beautiful. How do you see, what are your future plans? So you're doing the workshop, sharing more and more. Will this farm be expanding, or in what way do you see the future?
I don't make plans.
No.
I sow seeds. Yet still it is like a little boat that is moving in the ocean. You don't have the road to follow, but more or less you know the direction that you are going. You go towards southeast, but there is no fixed road to follow. Let's call it is like this. And this direction is to keep on sowing seeds.
But sowing seeds again is a metaphor for you. It's not only literally sowing seeds, it's also touching other people, inspiring other people.
It is the most beautiful seed, I believe. It is the one that falls in the heart of the people.
Is there anything else you would like to say and share, something important about natural farming, your way of living?
But I see, and between also the people come here, pass from here, spend some time. What I see is that it is very easy actually to live a beautiful life, and it is very difficult to change the mindset that brings us there. But once a person enters in the flow that is this beautiful harmony, once you start calming and you are realizing this beautiful harmony around you, and then that is the point where the big trust towards the life is developing, and towards the life and also towards the farming. And there I see that people start to, there is a change between the questions that are coming from mind, and then there is a point that the questions are turning, but they are not coming anymore from the mind, but it is a moment of realizing, there are a lot of moments. But it is not that someone is doing something, or it is not a teaching. It is simply when you slow down and just look at around you, and when you see this harmony that is moving slightly and smoothly, that is the moment I believe that one enters to the way of natural harmony.